together. So all of us have to go through all the ways of life. We all have certain, and we got to get these things out of us to be able to be one with our Father, Father. Ideologies. And for that cause, guess what they did? They said Jesus was born of virgin birth. And Joseph and Mary didn't have no sexual relationship. God just say, come on, Jesus, and you born. That don't make sense. It don't make sense to me. What it meant was there was a Essene brotherhood. And Mary and Joseph was a part of the Essene brotherhood. The Essene brotherhood was those that was living according to the word of God. And when Jesus was born, he was untouched. The virgin is pure and has been untouched. Because when you begin to look at that book that I told you about, you will see that Jesus was walking one day. And there was a sister that looked real fine, just like you. And when she was walking, Jesus got caught up. See, because Jesus had to go through all the ways of life too, just like you all did. He got caught up because of the music and the beauty of this sister. And Jesus said, man, let me go and get myself together. So all of us have to go through all the ways of life. We all have certain characters in us. And we got to get these things out of us to be able to be one with our Father, God, Allah. Islam. If there is anything lovely, if there is anything desirable, if there is anything within the reach of man that is worthy of praise, is it not knowledge? And yet, who is it that obtaineth it? The statesman proclaimeth that he have it. The ruler of the people claimeth the praise of it, but find it the subject that he possesses it. Evil is not requisite to man, neither vice can be necessary to be tolerated. Yet how many evils are committed by the convenience of the laws? How many crimes committed by the decree of the council? But be wise, O rulers, and learn, O thou that art to command the nations. One crime authorized by thee is worse than the escape of 10 from punishment. At this time, I'd like to recite the Moorish American prayer, the source from which I draw my strength. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day, through his holy prophet, Drew Ali, amen. First off, I like to rise, circling the camel's hump, which symbolize endurance, giving praise to Allah, the author, the creator, the governor of the world, almighty, eternal, and incomprehensible, the one who stretches forth the heaven with his hands, who have described with his fingers the courses of the stars, who set it bounds to the ocean that it cannot pass, and said to the stormy winds, be still. I'd like to give honor to the lily of the valley, the bright and morning star, talking about none other than our holy and illustrious prophet, Noble Drew Ali. I like to give honor to Prophet Noble Drew Ali because this Moor had courage enough for the truth, but to lie, he was afraid. This brother answered the call because when we was crying in the wilderness, we talked to Allah and asked him to send us someone to redeem us from our sinful ways and to warn us of the great wrath which was sure to come upon the earth. And Allah did all that in the form of Prophet Noble Drew Ali. I'd like to give on to the forerunner to the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, Marcus Mosiah Garvey. I'd like to give on to Marcus Mosiah Garvey because this brother had to have pure thoughts in order to pave the way for love. Moreover, he said, up, up, you mighty race, you can accomplish what you will. I'd like to give honor to all officials in the Moorish Science Temple of America, here, there, and everywhere. I'd like to give honor to all literature pertaining to Islam in the Moorish Science Temple of America. I'd like to give honor to the sheiks and the sheikas, but last but not least, I'd like to give a special honor to the members of Temple 2 here in Portland, Oregon, who understands the lesson where it says, every tub must stand on its own bottom, and every tongue must confess its own. Meaning, when it comes to these lessons, you have to learn them for yourself. I'm not going to give you my understanding of it, and I don't want you to give me yours, because the gifts of understanding are the treasures of Allah. And he appointed to everyone his portion in what measure seemeth good unto himself. I'd like to give honor to our two flags, the flag of our origin and the flag of our birth, just solely and just so quintus. And the reason why I'd like to give honor to our two flags, because everybody in this government flies two flags. They fly a national flag and they fly a national decent flag. And we wasn't able to fly a national flag and a national decent flag before the coming of Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Before I met Noble Drew Ali, I thought that my flag was the red, the black, and the green. And before I learned about my nationality, I said the red was for the blood, the green was for the land, and the black was for the people. And I learned through Marcus Garvey and Noble Drew Ali that when you talk about the red, black, and green flag, Marcus Garvey's flag, that had nothing to do with his national origin. The flag of Marcus Garvey, the red, the black, and the green flag, had a lot to do with his organization, the UNIA. He already had a national flag because he was born in St. Anne's Bay, Jamaica. So I'd like to give honor to our two flags, the flag of our origin and the flag of our birth. At this time, I'd like to read from the Moorish Holy Quran. I'd like to read from the Moorish Holy Quran because a lot of people is not conscious of this book. This book is known as the Book of the Seven Seals, that none was able to open and read from its sacred pages the messages of purity and love. So you know they talk about Jesus in the Bible when he was 12 years old. And you don't hear no more about him again until he was 33 years old. So 18 years was missing in the Holy Bible, and you can find that right here in the Book of the Seven Seals. And what I want to do right now, I want to read from the Book of the Seven Seals. And I want to read from a chapter that we talked about in our Sunday school, because it's important that if I share it with the membership, I want to share it with you, because what I'm going to tell you today, I have yet to hear on social media. The first thing I want to do is read from the chapter Religion, chapter 35 of the Moorish Holy Quran. And chapter 35, I'm going to read from verses 15 and 18. And 15 and 18 reads on this wise: Pay therefore to his wisdom all honor and veneration, and bow down thyself in humble and submission, obedience to his supreme discretion. 18. If we lift up our eyes to the heavens, his glory shining forth. If we cast them down to earth, it is full of his goodness. The hills and the valleys rejoice and sing. Fields, rivers, and woods resound his praise. Thus we just had a reading of the Moorish Holy Quran that was divinely prepared by our Holy Prophet Noble Drew Ali for our earthly and our divine salvation. And the reason why I want to read this chapter, because there's another chapter in here that talks about heaven too. And in the chapter that talked about heaven, it said that Allah never made a heaven for man. He never made a hell. We are creators and make our own. So when it says right here, it says we bow down in humble and submission to Allah. And it was said that because the Moorish Americans, because that's who I'm talking about, because I'm a Moorish American. I'm a descendant of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. And before the show is over, you can say, man, I'm a Moabite too. But when it say bow down in humble and submission to Allah, because the Moorish Americans stand on the seven, it's saying that we're not prostrating, we're not bowing down to the great God Allah. But I'm saying when I look at this chapter, and it tells us to look to the heavens, like I quoted earlier. When it says look to the heavens, you're looking in your higher self. Because Allah never made a heaven for man, he never made a hell. We are creators and make our own. So when you look to the heaven, you're looking up. You're not looking up in the sky, but you're looking in the windows of your mind, which is your higher self. And when you say humble and submission, when you start living according to the law of God, then you are humbling yourself and submitting yourself to the will of God. Just because you bump your head or you might do another thing don't mean that you're submitting to God, because you're doing that physical. And it's not in flesh to think, and it's not in bones to reason. Man is not the body nor the soul. He's a spirit and a part of Allah. So when you humble yourself, or when you prostrate yourself before the great God Allah, you're doing it in thought. And that has a lot to do with my subject matter today. You know, Drew Ali said the gifts of understanding are the treasures of Allah. And he appointed to everyone his portion in what measure seemeth good unto himself. Have he endowed thee with wisdom? Have he enlightened thy mind with the knowledge of truth? Communicated to the ignorant for their instruction, communicated to the wise for thine own improvement. Now, I got something beautiful to tell you today. We're about to embark on another Ramadan. And it was asked of me, do Moors practice Ramadan? Well, I could speak for myself. I have a Ramadan. And let me tell you what took place when I first joined the Moorish Science Temple. When I first joined the Moorish Science Temple, the Moorish Americans, we was fasting maybe twice a year. The first fast we would do was with the Nation of Islam. Because you know the Nation of Islam, until they changed some things, their Ramadan was in December. And the reason why the Nation of Islam Ramadan was in December before Ward Dean came was because the Honorable Elijah Muhammad wanted all of his members to sustain from honoring the 25th of December, which was Christmas. So he took the whole month of December and had his members to fast. And the Moors, during that time, we used to fast with the brothers in the Nation of Islam. At that time, it was basically before we start integrating. See, before we integrated, we was a strong people. We was a thorough people. We had a unity that couldn't be told in words. But when you begin to let Rome in the door, when Ward Dean came, he separated us 100 yards from where we were because he hooked us up with what is known as the Berlin Conference. Now let me tell you about the Berlin Conference. And these are things that I learned when I first joined the Moorish Science Temple of America. These are the curriculums that the sheiks gave us so we would have a firm foundation. So they told us about the Berlin Conference. And what I've been hearing about the Berlin Conference is not what I've been taught. I've been taught something totally different about the Berlin Conference. And let me tell it to you. We know that the Berlin Conference, we know where Berlin is. Berlin is in Germany. And you know, when you begin to talk about those who call themselves Jew, that came out of Germany. Now, you know the Berlin Conference was when all the European nations came together. And when they came together, their mission was to take over Africa. Some took the gold, some took the silver, some took the oil, some took this, but it was the European nations because there was no Asiatic in that meeting. But the people that was in that meeting looked just like the people when our president of the United States, our great president, what's his name? The president that we have now, when he went to Saudi Arabia not too long ago. And you seen when he was there dancing with those brothers, I reiterate that, if he would have had a headdress on, you wouldn't have been able to tell who was the Arabians and who was Donald Trump. And let me explain that. Now, there was a brother by the name of Abraham. Abraham had a wife named Sarah. Both of them was blessed by God later on. But at that time, Sarah was not able to have children. And Abraham had a handmaid named Hagar, the Egyptian. You know, the Egyptians is the Moabites. And Jesus himself was of the true blood of the ancient Canaanites and Moabites. The Canaanites is those who you call Indian. And the Moabite is you and me. And Jesus was of the true blood of the ancient Canaanite and Moabite. I'm going to speak on that in a minute. So now, the Berlin Conference. They moved a lot of people out, and they moved a lot of people in. Same thing with our flag here. This flag right here, it didn't come to Morocco until 1956. Drew Ali had the Moorish Science Temple of America established in this government before that flag was being flown in Morocco because it was taken down. And when you was taken down, you had a French flag, you had a Spanish flag, they had a lot of other different flags in Morocco. So now, let's look at this, and it's very important because I just mentioned Trump. When you begin to talk about the Berlin Conference, we thought it was over. Now, it had a lot to do with religion. Because when you look at Saudi Arabia today, and you say that Abraham had a wife named Sarah, and they had a child named Ishmael, and Ishmael is the father of the Arabian nation. So if that's the case, something wrong with that picture. Because I'm looking at the Arabians today. And all of the Arabians, they don't look nothing like Hagar. And Hagar looked just like me, the Egyptian. So now, with the Berlin Conference, something else they did. They took a religion, gave you one, and added something to it. And that's what I want to talk about today. Because a lot of times, we talk about Jesus, we talk about Muhammad, we talk about Buddha, and we talk about Confucius, but we don't even have no understanding about what these people really bought or what signs they were to apply. So let's go back to the Berlin Conference. When you look into the Middle East today, you don't see too many people in the Middle East look like me. But you see them looking just like European, but the only difference is they have an accent. And that is because of the Berlin Conference. Some of the Europeans claim Moses, and some of the Europeans claim Jesus. Those who claim Moses don't honor Jesus, and those who claim Jesus don't honor Moses. But both of these brothers come out of Africa. On our nationality cards in the Moorish Science Temple of America, it talks about nationality and it talks about birthright. And the reason why Noble Drew Ali put birthright on our nationality card, because there's nobody in the history of mankind that lost the birthright other than you and me. When Noble Drew Ali came to the earth to redeem us from our sinful ways and to warn us of the great wrath which is sure to come upon the earth, he had to do something that no other prophet ever done. And what that was, he had to bring us two things. Whenever a prophet ever come, when Muhammad came to the Israelites. I mean, he came to the Arabians and to the world because he was a universal prophet, but he came to them first. When Noble Drew Ali came, he had to come to the Negro, he had to come to the color, and he had come to the black, because we had took on some names that was given to us by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. Now you might look at it being ludicrous because you call yourself black. But you got to understand that in the divine constitution and bylaws in Act 6, Noble Drew Ali told us we wasn't Negro, we wasn't colored, nor was we black. And we didn't start calling ourselves black until 1968. And when Martin Luther King got killed. Before then, we wasn't calling ourselves black. And if somebody calls you black, they better know how to rumble, because we didn't like that. That was derogatory. Truth don't change. If it was derogatory yesterday, it was derogatory today. Because man is what his forefathers were yesterday. And we had a national name when first brought to these shores in the early part of the 17th century. I was in a meeting last night. With some Ethiopians. I don't call them Ethiopian, I call them Abyssinia, because the Greeks named Ethiopia, took the word Abyssinia away and named it Ethiopia. But the brother that I was talking to, he said, man, I was looking at your show, Lynch-Bey, and he said, I see where you say that there was only 2 countries in Africa that was colonized. You said that us, and who was that other people you said? I said Liberia, because Ethiopia did not have the slave trade. And they'll let you know, especially in D.C., because they're buying up everything. They'll say, we don't have nothing to do with you, Negroes, because we didn't come through the slave trade. We was not colonized in Ethiopia. He said, the only people other than that wasn't colonized is those in Liberia. And Liberia was those that was formed from us here, that went back to Africa to form ourselves there. And when you talk about Liberia, this is where Marcus Garvey went. Marcus Garvey went to Liberia, and he sat down with the kings there and said, what we're going to do, we're going to continue to bring our people here to Liberia so we could be free. So he said, okay, bring them over. So he had the ships, and when they brought them up, the dock in Liberia, they said, hold it. He said, Marcus Garvey, we can't let you in. We can't let you in because the Europeans came to us and offered us way more money than you can give us. Because right now here in Liberia, we known good for rubber. And we're going to give these people this rubber that we have here, and they're going to give us $1 billion. And when you look at the cars that ride down the street, and you look at a tire, and you see Firestone on that tire, you know it came from Liberia. So these are things that Drew Ali taught us. Also, he taught us when you begin to talk about the 3/5 of a man. See, he told us that we was 3/5 of a man. And I disagree with that. I said, I ain't no fifth of a man, I'm just like everybody else. Don't say I'm 3/5 of a man, but after I started studying Drew Ali, I come to find out that I was 3/5 of a man. And the reason why I was 2/5 of a man, because I wasn't honoring my father, nor my mother, that my days will be longer upon the earth land which the Lord thy God Allah has given thee. So now we 3/5 of a man, because I say Drew Ali came and he had to do something that no other prophet did. And what that was, he had to bring us 2 things. He had to bring us nationality, which was hooking us back up with the and he had to bring us divine creed, which was the spirit. So when you're talking about nationality, you're talking about your mother, because man derives his name from the earth land. And when you talk about divine creed, which is the spirit, you're talking about our Father, the great God Allah. So now how do we come in tune with Allah? We come in tune with Allah by doing what Allah say do. And what is that? Living according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. See, in 1913, Noble Drew Ali was sent to this earth by the great God Allah, because Allah heard us crying in the wilderness. And when he sent Noble Drew Ali, he sent Noble Drew Ali with 2 instructions: to teach us nationality. And the reason why he had to teach us nationality, because we had no rights that a citizen was bound to respect, and we had no place on earth. Because if you call yourself Negro, colored, and black, just like they say blacks have some reparation, blacks don't have no reparation coming. Who are you? You was given this name by slaveholders in 1779. You don't even know who Jacqueline is. You don't even know who Anna is, because they kept that curriculum from you and me. Mary, Jesus' mother's name was Anna. And Mary's father's name was Jacqueline. And Jacqueline had another partner named Boaz. This was Ruth's husband. And they are the two pillars that stand up front because of their spirit, but we don't know that yet. We don't even realize that when we say Boaz or when we say Jacqueline, and when Drew Ali say he's going to take the covers off of all secret organization, these are they that's in that Masonic order, and they talking about Jacqueline, which is of my genealogy. They talking about Boaz, which is of my genealogy. So you talking about the Canaanites and the Moabites and the inhabitants of Africa, because Lot is the nephew of Abraham, and his father was Haran. And Lot is the son of Haran. Haran then Abel is the son of Terah. Terah is the son of Reu. Reu is the son of Pelah. Pelah is the son of Salah. Salah is the son of Aphaxis. And Aphaxis is the son of Shem. And Noah had 3 sons, Ham, Shem, and Japheth. Now, I know you disagree because the Bible tells us that Noah's 3 sons were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. But when we all study our literature and they talk about Ham, they talk about the blackface. Everybody know about Ham because, see, Abraham was not always Abraham. He first was Abram, and then he became Abraham. And he became Abraham once he found grace in the eyes of God. He made a covenant. God made a covenant with him just like he changed Sarah's name and made a covenant with her. He made a covenant with me. And the covenant that he made with me, he gave me a babe. Now let's look at this bay again. Because everybody have a problem with the Moors not prostrating. They say that the Moors are supposed to be prostrating because our forefathers prostrated. I don't have no problem with that. But I'll tell you something else that was taught to me. In 1453, Byzantine, when the Moors fought with the Ottoman Turks to restore the Islamic creed. Now we're talking about high noon now. See, they say that in the Masonic order all the time. They talk about high noon. But what transpired was, at that time, we was praying 5 times a day. So at high noon, the European nations knew that we'll be in prayer. So they marched down on us at high noon on Friday the 13th. They were so scared later on, they didn't have 13 floors until recently because that number 13. See, Jesus was the 13th. Jesus had 12 disciples, and he was the 13th one. 13 is the spirit, 13 is the thought, because you're talking about 1 and 3. We're talking about mathematics too, because mathematics came out of Egypt. When you begin to talk about hieroglyphics, which was handwriting was on the wall, all of this come out of Egypt. So now, Noble Drew Ali come. And when he come for different methodology. He came and told us that we might pray in other ways when we have security around us real good, but he told us to stand up and pray on the 7th, because 7 is the number of perfection. And we are all striving to reach perfection. And how do you strive to reach perfection? By giving things up down here on this plane of things made manifest. Things down here that had no rule over us to take us to the plane of soul, and we can go on to the plane of spirit after that. But just because you see somebody pass in form and say they died from that perspective, that don't mean that they going straight to the gender. They might come back and you say, man, I've seen that he acting just like Lynch-Bey. And after Lynch-Bey got to come back because Lynch-Bey is not finished with all the lessons that he had to learn down here on this plane of things made manifest. That's why the prophet said many ages man would tarry until all his lessons are learned. That's why when a lot of people work with the Moorish American vendor outlet, I really like for them to come to the Moorish Science Temple at least once or twice, because they say that when you begin to talk about politics, they say that politics and religion don't mix. That don't make sense to us, because I'm not going to vote for somebody that don't have religion in them anyway. And most of these people, you keep talking about that you love your people, you don't even know who you are. So how can you love yourself when you don't know yourself? And it's easy. Drew Ali said, it don't take but 2 hours in the up-to-date library to relieve some things to us. So here, in the Moorish Science Temple of America, a brother asked me, say, are you a Muslim? I said, yeah, a Muslim is the one who submits his will to Allah. Now, we don't say Muslim because there's an Eastern and there's a Western terminology. There's no difference in the word, but when you begin to say Muslim, you're talking about the East. When you begin to talk about Muhammad with a U, you're talking about the East. But when we read Jew Ali told, when you look in your Moorish Quran, and you can see the word Muhammad in here, the word Muhammad is spelled with an O. Now, let's look at this real good now. A brother saying that we supposed to fast during the month of Ramadan. Don't do that. Don't even do that. What it is you don't know who you are. If you have 5 pillars, it ain't just Ramadan. You got to go through the holy city of Mecca. You got to pay your zakat. And you got to say, Ilaha Muhammadan Rasulullah. And if you say, Ilaha Muhammadan Rasulullah, you bear witness that there's no God but Allah, and Muhammad is the last and the seal of the prophet. And if you say that, you're not honoring Jew Ali. Because let me tell you this. Whenever in the Bible, Deuteronomy 18:18 for you Christians, it say, I will raise one up amongst you, looking just like you. And I'm going to put my words in his mouth and going to give you some signs. So whenever a nation is in need for a prophet, Allah will send one. You didn't think we need a prophet? I'm not saying that Moses is the last prophet. I'm not saying that Muhammad is the last prophet. I'm not saying Buddha and Confucius is the last prophet, but they were the last prophet in that era of time. But whenever a nation is in need for a prophet, Allah will send one. What kind of God would Allah be? We went through the Middle Passage, come through slavery. We done lost everything. We done lost our nationality, and we done lost our divine creed. You don't think he gonna send us somebody? What kind of God would he be? We crying in the wilderness, and you don't think he gonna send somebody now? I was telling the brothers in the Sunday school class that if a camel had a God, that God will have a hump. So in this Arab time, he said, whenever a nation in need for a prophet, I'm going to send one looking just like you. Why? Because don't nobody know your problem but you. He couldn't have sent us no Japanese. He couldn't have sent us no Arabian. He couldn't send us no Vietnamese. He had to send us somebody that was of our bloodline because they understood what we went through. They understood the trials and the tribulations. So a lot of brothers, you hear him tell me that I got to learn Arabic. I don't have no problem with that because I'm learning Arabic just like I'm learning Chinese. But don't tell me that I have to read my Bible or I have to read my Quran in Arabic or in Chinese or in another language to be able to understand it, because it don't make no difference. If you speak Japanese, if you speak Chinese, or if you speak Vietnamese, if your heart ain't pure, you ain't gonna understand what God talking to you about anyway. Now, we was in a meeting again. There's something come up. You know, you have a lot of brothers that's, I like to give honor right now. I'm gonna stop. I like to give honor to Brother Hassan. You know, he's working on the show and he's a Muslim. And he has that kind of character. He has the character, you know, his father was before him, and he had that kind of character. But what I'm saying is, in the Moorish Science Temple of America, when Noble Jew Ali came, he came because he had to come because we lost the nationality. If we wouldn't have lost the nationality, it wouldn't have been no need for Prophet Muhammad. Because we could say, Allah Muhammad Rasulullah and pray, but Jew Ali had to come. He had to come and restore that back upon us that was lost. He had to come to make us citizens. Because if you call yourself Negro, colored, and black, you are not a citizen of this government because they place their trust upon names, dates, and issues. And issuing you your nationality card will put you back into the line where you're supposed to be. Because Jew Ali said, through your free national name, you're known and recognized by all nations of the earth that are recognized by said national government in which you live. He said the 14th and the 15th Amendment, both the North and South in unit, placing the Southerner, which was at that time without power, with the constitutional body of power. And at that time, 1865, the free national constitutional law that was in force since 1774 declared all men free and equal. And if all men are declared by the free national constitution to be free and equal, since that constitution has never been changed, there is no need for the application of the 14th and the 15th Amendment for the salvation of our people and its citizens. Let me get back into this. I got to get back into it because we heard something in Sunday school. And we heard something in Sunday school, and it sounds like those that are taking that test, taking that course, because the course changed every time somebody take one. But the 14th and 15th Amendment had nothing to do with you, and it had nothing to do with me. Because Drew Ali said, since the Constitution of the United States has never been changed, there is no need for the application of the 14th and the 15th Amendment for the salvation of our people and its citizens. Well, what was the 14th and 15th Amendment about then? If it ain't had nothing to do with us, and I thought it would have something to do with civil rights, because civil rights is a non-political issue. Civil rights is not even an issue that you could take to the United Nations. That's why when Malcolm went to the UN to see Youth Thump, and he told Youth Thump, say, I want to bring the United States before the world court and charge genocide. Youth Thump said, Malcolm, I hear you, man. You got a lot of work that you're doing, and you got a lot of work that you have been done. But in order to bring the United States before the world court, you must represent a nation. And we already have a representative for the United States. What nation do you represent? He said, I represent the black man. He said, come on, Malcolm, man. Come on, man, you a little sharper than that. Come on, man, I know you over there over there, and you was over there in Boston, and you was a gangster, and you was all that, but I know you can think a little better than that. Because there's no such thing as Negro. There's no such thing as black. There's no such thing as color. You can't even get on the agenda as Afro-American. And why can't you get on the agenda for Afro-American? Because no such thing. Have you ever heard anybody call themselves European American? No. Why? Because they're German, they're Dutch, they're French, they're Portuguese, etc., etc., etc. And if they just say European American, they are not honoring their father and their mother. And their days will not be longer upon the earth land which the Lord thy God Allah has given thee. So now we're talking about the 14th, and we're talking about the 15th Amendment. And the 14th and 15th Amendment brought Jefferson Davis and Robert E. Lee, who was the president and the general of the South. And when the South lost the war, what did the North do? That's their brothers, man. That's their brothers, sister. So what they did, they had to open the door to bring their brothers and their sisters back in, because when you begin to talk about the Civil War, which is a non-political issue, because two people had a different concept that the other didn't, and the concept was you and me. That's what brought about the Dred Scott decision of 1857. Chief Justice Roger B. Chandler said the words all men are created equal never meant to apply to the Negro, colored, and black, because you ain't proclaim your nationality. And that old saying about Scott free, Scott never did get free. And the reason why Scott didn't get free, because he didn't proclaim his nationality. Nobody talk about what I'm talking about, but Drew Ali. I wear fez on my head. And the fez that I wear on my head, I had to learn about Jockman and Boaz. Because the fez that I wear on my head is not tied down. It swings around. And a lot of people that wear this fez is tied down because it could only go the 33 and the 3rd. I came in the icebox, took my soda out the icebox and my water to bring to the show. But I should have took it out earlier, because when I had it in the icebox, it was 33 and the 3rd degree. So being that it's 33 and the 3rd degree, when I took it out, it was frozen. Me, I'm from where flowers grow, where fruits grow. I'm from Africa. I'm dancing. I'm not tied down. I'm not frozen. You know, I'm 360. Because 360 is man standing upright. 6 and 3, 3, 6, 0, you add it up, you get 9. Mathematics don't lie. When you begin to talk about mathematics, it come out the east. I just like when you go to college and you hear people talking, they don't know anything about Imhotep. They don't know anything about Akhenaten. And when you find all these doctors and lawyers and mathematicians, they don't realize that it came out of Egypt. I remember what Noble Drew Ali taught us. Brother Omar Bey, the one that bought Austin Bey in the temple, he always talk about when Drew Ali was telling the Moors, what transpired with him when he went through the chamber in Egypt. And every time I hear the things about Drew Ali, when he went through and what they put him through, it made me smile because it reminded me of what we going through. So, Noble Drew Ali, he didn't tell the Moors that you had to fast because at that time, we were going through change and we had nothing to eat. Fast. Couldn't nobody fast back then. We was on welfare. You had welfare cheese. You had welfare powdered milk. You had welfare powdered eggs. And you get that once a month. So we ain't had nothing to eat anyway until we was elevating and trying to grow. Because Drew Ali didn't tell us to fast, but he told us what makes us a Muslim. It's not how many times we pray or how many times we bump our head. What makes us a Muslim is our character. Us living this law, trying to be one with our Father, God Allah. Now they asked me about eating pork. Man, we wasn't eating pork before I came into the Moorish side. Ain't nobody crazy. You can't poison a pig. That's the dirtiest animal that's around, a pig. You can't kill it. If a poison snake bite a pig, all he gonna do is swell up and go back down. So I'm not telling you don't eat no pork. You do what you want to do. My job is to warn you. I'm not here to recruit nobody. I'm here to warn you of the great wrath which is sure to come upon the earth. And because you got a lot of European in you, you don't want to hear this truth anyway. So we talking about the Civil War now. Let's go back there because we talking about a civil issue. The Civil War, we're dealing with a civil issue. And the civil issue that we're dealing with, let me reiterate, is a brother and a sister from the same mother. One of them was with the North and one with the South. So being that the North won, they had to open up the door for their brothers and their sisters. So what they did, they came with the 14th and the 15th Amendment. And the 14th and 15th Amendment is what brought Jefferson Davis and Robert E. Lee back into the constitutional fold. See, because that don't apply to us. Noble Drew Ali said in this book right here, since the Constitution has never been changed, there is no need for the application of the 14th and 15th Amendment for the salvation of our people and its citizens. So now you want to go and try to get your rights. You want to get your human rights. Let me tell you something else. On the back of our questionnaire, Drew Ali said Millie Hill, Small Bay, Lovett Bay, and Former Bay. And the reason why he said Millie Hill, Small Bay, Lovett Bay, and Former Bay, because our brother Navi, our treasure, the brother that's in the wheelchair that y'all see every week, he comes to his meetings and everything. He told me one time, said, man, I might stop calling myself Navi. He said, because every time I say Navi, they look at me as I'm Bin Laden. But there's another part of Bin Laden. Bin Laden was the CIA for many years. We don't even understand that lesson. And there's more. So was that Bin Laden? They said they put him right in the sea. They ain't want nobody to see it. Nobody seen that body. Only person that seen that body was those that was in the Navy SEALs, the one that hit him. And nobody else seen the body. That's strange. But the reason why they did it is because that wasn't him. That wasn't him right there. And he's a European. He come from somewhere like me. I'm somebody now who are my forefathers not. Drew Ali said the citizens of all free national governments, according to their national constitution, are all of one family, bearing one free national name. What's that national name? The national name is America. A lot of people don't like the American flag. You don't like the honor of the American flag. But man, that flag there, I ain't talking about dude be holding the swords up and all that. I ain't jeffing like that because I don't do. See, what took place was, you got to understand that flag right there, right here, this flag protects us. Man, I got so many stripes on my back behind this flag. But Drew Ali gave us a sign. That's why he said don't even carry a pocket knife, because he knew that this government gained some strength, and this government gonna protect us in our infancy and our ignorance. So until we get ourselves together, this United States government is protecting us, because any other government can come in here right now and take over. Everybody tell them, man, I don't know what's wrong with the president over there in Russia. That don't make sense. That don't make sense for you to, because when I look at my brothers, I see a Zulu, I see a Watusi, I see the Bantu, I see a Ibu, I see different tribes. And the same thing with Putin and Trump. Two brothers from the same mother, the same DNA. And you going to try to say why they together and why they talking? They brothers. They brothers from the same mother. They are the European stock, look just alike. You think he can put you in front of him? No. So these are lessons that we need to look at. We always, like the Chinese, the things that's going on in this government, you don't hear Chinese saying nothing. You don't hear them saying nothing at all. Matter of fact, you don't hear the Vietnamese saying nothing. Vietnamese ain't gonna say nothing anyway, because I know a few Vietnamese right here in Portland, Oregon, that I knew from Vietnam. But they was working with the United States government. And being that they were working with the United States government, they couldn't stay in Vietnam. They had to come over here to be protected, because once they took over, they were going to kill them. So now they over here, they got all the jobs, they got all of this, they got this money, and they got that. And people complaining, why they get that? Why they get that? You know what it is. The reason why you don't have nothing, you can't even get reparation. I told you that the Ethiopians said that they was never colonized. So who gonna get a reparation? Because when you begin to talk about reparation, from which it come from West Africa. The slave trade came from West Africa. That's where it came from. And it came after the Moors went into Spain. We went into Spain. Gave Europe civilization. We didn't stop nothing that they was doing. We just gave them a little more. We gave them running water, showed them how to take baths, brought them out the caves, and we did a lot of great things for the uplifting of fallen humanity. And while we was in Spain, we started fighting with the Ottoman Turks to restore the Islamic creed, because they said Noah's Ark rested out at Mount Ararat. And so you got an Asiatic Turkey and you had a European Turkey. And Noah's Ark rested at Mount Ararat in Asiatic Turkey. Now, so you know there was a time when the whole world was called Asia. That's why in the Bible it talked about the 7 churches that was in Asia. And the reason why they didn't say the 7 churches that was in Europe, because at that time Europe was not even in existence. But it was the Europeans that took the Bible and changed it from their perspective, their council. Who sat on the council? James Stewart. Let me go back into this guy. You know who James Stewart is. James Stewart is the one that you call King James. And King James is the one that changed a whole lot of things in the Bible. One of the things that he changed the genealogy from Ham being the oldest son to Shem being the oldest son. Look at it. When you look at Genesis, it say Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And that there separates you and bring what you already put on your nationality card, talking about birthright. Because who in the history of mankind lost the birthright other than you and me? Drew Ali brought us back a flag. This flag right here is the seal of Solomon. And we talking about Solomon. And I say it all the time when I'm on this show. We talk about the Lord is my shepherd. Or we say the Lord is my light and my salvation. And when we say the Lord, the first person we think they're talking about is Jesus. But man is the Lord of the plane of things made manifest. She used to call you Lord when they see you in your high self. So when they say Lord, it couldn't have been Jesus that David and Solomon was talking about, because at that time, Jesus wasn't even born yet. Jesus came about later on. It says in our literature, it says, will you give in brief the line genealogy through which Jesus came? It says some of the great fathers through which Jesus came are Abraham, Boaz by Ruth, Jesse, King David, Solomon, Hezekiah, and Joseph by Mary. I say Abraham. See, let's go back again. That Abraham had a brother, and his son was Lot. And what then transpired, we done got caught up in an illusion, because Lot is one of our forefathers. But through scientific study and investigation, Rome got you outside of your spirit and got you accepting things that's diametrically opposed to what our forefathers taught. Just like when you talk about Lot. See? Lot led the people out of a particular place. And when he led them out of there, he talked about it. He talked about it and tell us about Adam and Eve and not Adam and Steve. But we take on these concepts because somebody is winning in this great melting pot. And in this great melting pot, somebody is woven into somebody else's concepts and ideologies. This is a great melting pot here with many different nationalities. Everybody here have a different nationality. That's just like when you look at the city council, or when you look at Congress, or when you look at the Senate. Everybody in there got different nationalities. You got Germans, you have Russians, you have all different kind of European nations there that have a nationality. So how can you tell one that they can't deal with their brother and their sister when they are all of that same nationality? So what we need to do is learn ourselves. Drew Ali said, know thyself. See, and he didn't say know thyself. Not in my book. He said know thyself. And the reason why he said know thyself is because man have two selves. But really you don't have but one self. You got to crush one under thy feet and tame the other to thy purpose. And for what purpose was the Moorish Science Temple of America founded? For the uplifting of fallen humanity. And how did the prophet begin to uplift the Moorish America? By teaching them to be themselves. Now who are you? Asiatic Muslim. You're Asiatic Muslim because there are two formulations in the human family. Asiatic and European. And you sure not European. And you're Muslim because you submit your will to Allah. How do you submit your will to Allah? By living according to the highest principles known to man, which is love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. You love your brothers and sisters, and you tell them the truth. That they live in peace, have freedom, and justice come to us all. We were talking about in the meeting, you find a lot of people, they ain't really interested in no religion. They ain't interested in no friendship. They ain't interested in they can get a dollar or two from you. And once they get the dollar or two from you, then they go on about their business. You trying to aid in the system because you trying to uplift fallen humanity, just like Navi, our brother in the wheelchair. He got a brother car, got a brother a lot of stuff. Brother broke the car, threw the car away, didn't pay the rest of the deal, and do none of that. I should have crushed him. But that's my fault because you should never leave your post until you properly relieved. So what we're talking about now, we're talking about trying to get close to God. And when you get close to God, you're no longer here on this earth. Because there is the war of Armageddon. And this war of Armageddon deals with truth and falsehood. And there's a battle going on. And the battle that's going on is fought on the plane of soul. You know, the plane of soul is like the yellow, the caution. You know how you have a red light, the green light, and a yellow light. And the red light is the one that, you know, you don't go through. You go through when it's yellow. You go through the red light, you might have an accident. So Noble Drew Ali came with the methodology telling us to save ourselves from the wrath of Allah by teaching us to be ourselves and teach these lessons to our little ones. You know, just like the woman. I always talk about all times are not alike. Sometimes woman teaches best. Right now, the woman got the charge. Because all of us that know about the Booger Man, all of us that know about Santa Claus, all of us that know about Christmas, all of us that know about Easter, all of us that know about all these trickeries that was given to us, it come through the woman because she put it up. So now the woman got to teach the lesson. She got to teach the lesson. She got to teach the lesson to tell the child to give back to Caesar what belonged to Caesar. See, that's what the book says. So what do it mean when it say give back to Caesar what belonged to Caesar? Because I was telling the Moors in the Sunday school that they got a pizza out. And the pizza they got out is Caesar. Some kind of pizza with Caesar. And the brother said, I want to go get that. So now I'm going to 7-Eleven and get a pizza. If you want a pizza, let's go to 7-Eleven because we know what took place in 7-Eleven. Even when you shoot dice, you can win with 7 or you can win with 11 on the first time. And 7-Eleven, this is when the Moors went into Spain. I say the Moors went into Spain. Didn't no Negro, didn't no color, didn't no black go into Spain because at that time we was not known. We went in 7-Eleven. If Drew Ali say from 1779 to 1865 during the time of slavery when these names was given to us. And remember, we talk here on the Moorish Voice. And we said something about a sister named Nikki Giovanni, who was a poet. She was back there and had a big afro, looked just like Angela Davis' afro. And she made a statement. She said, where are the Moors? She said, are the Moors like the dinosaurs? Are the Moors distinct now and they're gone? No, sister. The Moors are calling themselves Negro, colored, and black. And when you call yourself Negro, colored, and black, not only do you not have a nationality, what you're doing, you're not honoring your father and your mother. Because you are today what your forefathers were. Even the book of Ruth tells you that Ruth was a Moabite, and Jesus himself was of the true blood of the ancient Canaanites and Moabites, and Ruth married Boaz, and from that union came Jesse, Obed, King David. And these are they that brought the spirit of the great God Allah back into our genealogy, back into our bloodline. Because we are gone. The Moors was a wicked people. The Moors was another, man, you should have known me. Man, I was about hatred. I was about slander. I was about lewdness. I was about murder. I was about theft and everything that harm. But everybody, you got to go through all the ways of life in order to become close with your Father God Allah. Now, another thing. I said this before, and I want to say it again. You and a brother or you and a sister was going through something. And y'all going through something real tough, but when y'all see each other again, y'all both into the Moorish Science Temple. That means that you have to humble each other. But if we in the Moorish Science Temple, we still doing the same thing in our character that we did before we found the prophet, then something wrong with that picture. And we have to look at that. So many are called, a few are chosen, and some are sent. So whenever you see the European working out his creed, even if it's talking about our leaders, you got to ask yourself why. Because there's a lot of us. Where the who? Who working with the European government? Somebody is. And it's the one that you think ain't. So I look at the Moors and I look at other brothers and sisters that's in this government. And I sit down and I think, because I remember when there was no Black Panther Party. I remember when there was no black organizations. I remember when the black organizations came about. Because you got to understand that Martin Luther King and them wasn't part of no black organization. They was a part of the Negro organization. This is, and the colored organization. When you see Martin Luther King and the NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. We wasn't black yet. And I remember when we were still colored, I was going to junior high school. And outside on Marion Street, they'd have a place that you go at 3 o'clock when school let out and rumble. And I've seen a lot of fights over there by somebody say, you old black nigga, you old this, and you old man, you call a man black man. They had to rumble. You know, that was so derogatory because that word black was something dead. You know, when you go to a funeral, now you wear anything. Tennis shoes, pants hanging down. But when I come up, when somebody passed for them, it was a respect factor. And when you go to the funeral, you mourn in black, you have your tie on, you have shiny shoes on, and you go in there as respect. But when times changed, then that respect was no longer there. So here in the Moorish Science Temple, you don't know us because some of our people is talking about Negro, some is talking about colored, some is talking about black, some of them is talking about Islam, some is talking about Christianity, but Ali told us some of his greatest followers are in the church. He didn't say in the malls, because you go to the mall, they ain't honoring Jesus anyway. They're not going to honor Jesus because they put Muhammad first. But Jesus himself was of the true blood of the ancient Canaanite and Moabite, and that picture that you showing of Muhammad is not him. Because Muhammad looked just like me if his mother is Hagar, the Egyptian. So I'm always honored to be able to come before my Portland listening audience to tell you that our nation is the only nation that has a membership. So being that we have a membership, we have to have it because when Rome asked for the paperwork, and all you Moorish Americans that go to Juma and all church and all those other places, attend your meeting like the prophet said on Friday. So in conclusion, I would like to say the need for unity is so great that it's better to unite than to eat, sleep, drink, talk, or walk. This is the hour of deception. A house divided cannot stand. And for that cause, we're preparing ourselves to become one again with our Father, God, Allah. We must remember the mighty and great need for unity. We must remember the cause of our fall. And why is it so hard for this age to comprehend the resurrection of the dead? I'd like to give honor to our Portland listening audience for listening to me. And if anything I said that you don't agree with, investigate it so you'll be what you know. Man is what he knows, not what he's told. And through scientific study and investigation, he'll be what he knows. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation by night and by day through his holy prophet, Jew Ali. Amen.